The first in the trilogy of state capture reports, of course, being released yesterday. The report is thanks in large part to whistleblowers. Let's discuss now the importance with Corruption Watch's senior journalist and editor Moepeng Talane. Moepeng, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. I see that even in this first part of the report by the Commission, the role of whistleblowers has really been highlighted by the Commission, and going to the extent that where applicable, they should be properly rewarded. I mean, that's significant.
It is indeed, yes. I mean, when you look at the work of the Commission and how far it's come since its establishment, or rather the beginning of its public hearings, it's safe to say that without the role played by whistleblowers, both big and small, it wouldn't have probably gotten to where to the point where it amassed this much information and this volume of evidence that it has now informed the report that we see now that was released yesterday. So their role has been very important. And I'm glad that both the Deputy Chief Justice and, of course, the President acknowledged the roles that were played by whistleblowers in that regard. And yes, I mean, a lot of recommendations in the area of whistleblower protection and how, or rather whistleblower rehabilitation, whistleblower protection and management, of course. And coming out of the report, there some significant recommendations coming out of there that I think are quite commendable on the part of the Commission. And of course, we would hope that those who are tasked with taking the action will be able to do so and do so quite urgently, given the circumstances that whistleblowers find themselves in our country in recent times.
Yeah, what are your thoughts, I mean, around the issue of rewarding whistleblowers in terms of this report that has come up? Do you think it's good enough, or more can be done?
Look, I think an important aspect of the work that whistleblowers do, of course, is they literally put themselves in danger. There's a huge risk to them. So it would be a first in our country, but it would be modeled around stuff that has been done in other countries, as we've been hearing in the past. I mean, everyone who has called for such has mentioned that countries that incentivize whistleblowers, like your United States, for instance, have a successful rate in terms of whistleblowers people feeling encouraged to blow the whistle on corruption when they see it, particularly in the public office. So it would be a recommendation that we watch closely, of course. But even beyond that, I would say that the involvement of known whistleblowers in how that process is managed, that and the rehabilitation and support structures for whistleblowers in general be included in the overall package, that it not be a case of there's an institution that takes care of you, you report there, you're incentivized, you're given part of the money that's recovered from irregular contracts and things like that, and then you walk away. But you're encouraged to take part in the process of perhaps helping to manage other whistleblower reports that come in future.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. But I mean, when you think about the late Babita Deokaran, the whistleblower here in the Gauteng Health Department, and who was then killed, and you wonder really about the state, because the whole family gets affected. Yes. Any support, in my mind, I don't know what you think, Moepeng, I'm just thinking aloud here, any support to a whistleblower surely should take into consideration that factor of the whole family being at risk.
The support structure, indeed, there's no getting away from it. The overall idea, I think, is from our organization's perspective, in our conversations around how whistleblowers, and I use the term managed loosely because I wanted to, to give the impression that we're thinking of a formal structure that doesn't just involve you coming in, reporting, making disclosure, and then handing over a process to lawyers and other public officials, but that of course your own personal safety is taken into consideration, the personal safety of your immediate family is taken into consideration, the mental health of yourself and your immediate family, and the sense of anxiety around the issues that you will have brought forward as a whistleblower. Those issues are also taken into consideration and managed in such a way that you get a holistic, you have a holistic approach to how the management of that process is done, beyond just you blew the whistle on the issue, we recovered money with your help, and therefore we gave you a portion of that money and you walked away. Even a full rehabilitation process that involves, like you say, the extended family, the immediate family of such a whistleblower, and whatever requirements, of course within reason, that they may have beyond the actual act of their family member blowing the whistle on corruption.
Yeah, I mean, some whistleblowers end up fleeing the country of their origin. We have a couple of them here who fled the country. It's a big factor. For you, Moepeng, I mean, as we conclude, looking at what's coming out now and the comments that have been made by the acting Chief Justice, of course, in his capacity as chair of the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture, Raymond Zondo, around whistleblowing. Going forward, I mean, what should we be looking out for in how whistleblowing will be treated in this country? Because, I mean, several of them have even lost jobs, and they are around, and nobody will touch them because of all these kind of fears and risks that you've outlined.
I like that you make that last point, that they become a bit of a liability to a certain extent. And I think it was in the testimony of Reverend Frank Chikane in 2019 that very point was made in his testimony. So again, it comes back to what it is that whoever is tasked with setting up this agency that the Commission recommends that be established, the Anti-Corruption Authority / agency, as stated in the report, and within which the whistleblower protection / management exercise will be carried out. In that respect, within the context of that agency, I think there's a conversation that needs to happen as to what does protection look like, and again, involving people who have blown the whistle in the past and what their experiences have been, so that such a conversation is well informed, and that whatever policies that get established therein answer or address the issues that we talk about, of people possibly losing their jobs and no longer being accepted in the public sector and the private sector. And again, I think the private sector also has to play a role in all of that, because not all private sector companies want to act dishonestly. I mean, some of them want to have an honest relationship with the government, and you would want them to have a place in that conversation where they're able to say the protection from our perspective looks like this, and of course civil society organizations like ourselves, of course, would be willing to take part in such a process as well.
Thank you very much for your views there. Moepeng Valencia, she's of course senior journalist and editor at Corruption Watch. We're just weighing in on the issue of the importance of whistle blowing.